I was what they call a stripping room. And it was a leaf, the tobacco. Well, you take that and you just put it in your hand and you get the centre of it and you go right down the middle and take that barky piece out. Then you start off and they bring them in on layers and you put a pile of those together, put them in a machine, put the clamp down like that, you press a button and that steam will come right out. Now perhaps do that for about 6 along. Then they go over on one side and they go into the next room, and that's when they go on the cutter. They chop them up like that. If you don't take your fingers out, you have your finger chopped as well. And you do that. And in the tobacco factory, I wasn't a teacher there, but if we finished our work early and they were bringing in, there'd be pipe tobacco, which is done different to the cigarette tobacco, because one's done with a heavy machine and a clamp to put them together to keep them going like that. But we have to teach them all to do that. Ingolf, he used to make up packets about, that long and about that high, and it was not a plastic, but it was similar to plastic, the bags, and he used to keep 6 or 8 of those packets on hand, and if he had any mates or anything, Ingolf would be one of the bosses, and he'd give them one of those to take. And they were very generous with cigarettes and that. You could buy, they'd call it a chub, and you'd buy a packet of cigarettes. You'd say about have 200 in that one packet. But you did that only weekly. When we first started there, it took you a while to learn the job. And then once you learnt it, you could do it next to nothing. Well, I used to knit a lot in my working hours. And I knitted myself a knitted dress in one afternoon, which I'd whip down. I'd say to the girls, watch my machine, I'll be back in a minute, I'm just going for a smoke or going for a fag. Away you'd go down, you'd come back and they'd say, Mrs. Woon has been around and she wanted to know where the girls were from that machine, and we said, it's out of action at the moment, they're having it fixed. She never waited for us to say anything more, she took off, so you better get back to your job. And of course one of the girls was myself, and the other girl, she was always in and out, because she was a great little knitter, and she could go for like a bat out of hell. Use your fingers and work quickly. And people used to say, that dress you were making there the other day, how long is it going to take you to finish it? I said, I finished it. What? I said, yes, made it in no time. But they weren't a slave driver, the tobacco factory bosses. There was Ty Husher, Ingolf Husher, and Harold Husher. That was the 3 of them. And those 3 go from 1 room, 2 rooms, 3 rooms. And they'd just stay a little bit there, and then a few there, and then there. And then you might see them twice within the 2 hours. Well, you'd know that they're quite happy with your work and they know that they're getting the work done. And they weren't slave drivers, but 30 years I worked at the tobacco factory, and I'd been married, and I still worked there after I was married. But after I didn't have any children for about 4 years, I thought, I'm never going to have any. I think I'll give it up. So I went to give it up. And then Ingolf said, I'd like you to come back in the winter, because I didn't play winter bowls. I hate to be dressed with coats and jackets and all that. I wanted it to be nice and friendly. So I thought, right, I'll turn round and I'll finish all together, because different people were saying, oh, we know a lady that works here and she works as a casual. And of course that was me.